Welcome everyone to my opinion piece regarding the August 24th, 2020 Exeter Township Board of Supervisors meeting. I have several issues I'd like to talk about. The first one, of course, being the issue addressing opening up the sports fields to sporting events, baseball, soccer. I'm assuming that this is at all different age levels. So the board has discussed this in this meeting. You can go see it, where they have a rather lengthy discussion about using it or not. And this is a major departure from the board's position since COVID-19 began. Their position has been whatever Governor Wolf mandates, they will follow that mandate. And they've done that. They've taken the Board of Supervisors meetings on the internet. They've closed down the Dunn Center for activities. They've prevented the kids and parents from going to the playgrounds. And closed the library, of course. And there might be other issues that they've closed down, but this one seems to be running contrary to their position, because Governor Wolf still says that these sporting activities should be canceled until January 1st of 2021. So they're in discussions to open up the fields to athletics. And that means there are going to be spectators. There might be food vendors there, older or younger children. And my position is neutral. Whether they keep them closed or whether they open them up is not really a concern of mine. However, if they do open them, then I think they need to consider all of the other areas that they shut down. And my particular interest is the Board of Supervisors meetings. So you're going to allow hundreds of people to congregate and interact on the athletic fields, but you will not open up the meetings to 15 to 20 people that would like to attend them. And I just think that sends a bad message to everyone. Now they're planning on having everyone sign a document to indemnify the township. But when you're not consistent in the application of these things, I think that opens us up to serious legal issues. Who's to determine what is safe and what is not under these COVID-19 conditions? I'm not quite sure that the board is experienced enough to make those decisions, but you can make that assessment yourself. So if they go ahead and they open up the fields, I think that gives us a stronger position to entertain opening up the Board of Supervisors meetings, because it's their obligation to make every effort to open up these Board of Supervisor meetings to the public. Our rooms are large enough, we could distance anyone that goes in there. They could be safe, they could distance themselves as well, 6 feet, wear a mask. They could continue streaming it over the internet. That way the public has a choice. They can watch it over the internet, or they can go to the meetings in person. So they have a great choice. If they're afraid that something might happen going to the meetings, they can watch it on the internet. Their only excuse will be that they have problems with the public address system. Well, this is just a technical issue that can be very easily solved. I think that's what it is, an excuse. If they can't solve these very small problems, how are they going to deal with all the big problems that are going to crop up when they start building the promenade? And I think if you've watched their videos over the past couple years, they're not very good at addressing surprises. So let's keep an eye on this. They haven't voted one way or the other. They might address it at the next meeting. And let's see how that will affect the Board of Supervisors' public meetings, because there are municipalities, there are other townships like Amity that are holding their meetings and open to the public. So why aren't we? My second issue that I wanted to talk about are the budget overruns. You might have heard me in the comment section asking about the departments that have exceeded the budgets by a tremendous amount of money and percentages, and they focused on only one, which was the engineering, zoning, and planning department, which has spent over $361,000 over budget, and this was only till the end of July, so we can expect it to go even higher. And that's well over 1,000% over the budget. And their excuse is that they misclassified the expenses. So here's another accounting error that we catch that should have been very obvious. And why hasn't it come to anyone's attention? Is because the board doesn't do their job. They should be looking at these treasury reports, looking at excessive overspending and discussing it for the public to understand. And they also should be approving any of these excessive spending issues. But that department's not the only one. We had another department, Administration, Human Resources. Okay, they were 1,200% over their budget. So what's the excuse for that? The engineering zoning excuse is, well, they charged monies that were spent on the Perkiomen Avenue project to that account, and they talk about it in a meeting. They should reclassify it. But what's the excuse for Administration and Human Resources? 1,200% over budget at the end of July. Or how about Administration Finance? So consulting services are 523% over budget. I had a conversation with David Spees in 2019 because I pointed out that there were serious errors in their budget, which John Casadis, who was the chairman at the time, just, steamrolled it into the meeting and had it approved, adopting it, just because they wanted to. So, but Mr. Spees, I recall his comments very clearly. He said, it doesn't really matter what the number is. We can change it anytime we want. Well, Mr. Spees, once you adopt a budget, that's the number. And you should spend more time and make better efforts in creating the next budget. Now, of course, it's very simple for us since we have $40 million in the bank. You just cover it up. But these overages against the budget should be brought out to the public. It should be discussed. And anytime you exceed the budget numbers by these amounts, it should be approved by the Board of Supervisors going forward so that there's no confusion. We'll see what I doubt they'll respond to any of that. My third item out of 4 items is the recycling costs. They're outrageous. And I'll give you a little background about these recycling costs. This was a Granger project, and there was no real study done. He just said a couple residents came to him and said that, it would be nice to pick up the recyclables every week instead of every 2 weeks. Now, in my opinion, this was a planned thing by Granger, and in my opinion, it benefits 2 organizations. of course, the garbage company, Blazinski's, who picks up the recyclables, but they just kind of benefit because they were going to be the ones that pick it up. The true beneficiary of this, in my opinion, is J.P. Mascaro. And you have to understand, he just built a recycling plant. So here's the problem, and as a businessman, I can tell you what he's done is something that any businessman would do, but we end up paying for it. And what he's done is he said, well, I don't want to wait every 2 weeks to get these recyclables delivered to me. I want to get them every week. So it smooths out my processing in my plant. That's how this happened. And they misrepresented the real reasons. Not only that, but they never increased the budget to cover the additional expenses. So what they told us was, well, we're going to keep the recycle fee where it's at, and we will pay the increase out of the current general fund dollars. But let's look at the numbers, okay? When we pick the recyclables up every 2 weeks, it cost us $18,000 a month. And that equates into $216,000 a year. And we were paying $20 for that, for the year, for each resident. And that works out to about 10,800 homes, which is almost mark on the Census Bureau's count. So in 2020 now, they've increased that to every week, and the cost per month went from $18,000 a month to $45,000 a month. And that's $540,000 for the year. And that equates into an increase from every other week to every week of a $324,000 increase, which, as I mentioned earlier, isn't being charged to us now. It's just being paid out of the monies that were left in the general fund from the prior year. Most likely, really, it's coming out of the sewer plant proceeds. So, do we really need to recycle every week? I don't think so. There are probably situations with certain people where that would be convenient for them, but I don't think it's necessary. Most people, they can wait 2 weeks and it would be fine. If there are problems with containers, it's a lot cheaper to provide them with an extra container than to spend an additional $324,000 a year. So when you look at it on a per household cost, right now you pay $20. Next year, if they keep it the same way for, in my opinion, Mr. Mascaro's business, you take the total amount divided by the 10,800 homes, and we're looking at $50 for each household. So your cost would go up an additional $30. So the township really needs to decide if it's really practical to have to do that. And I think, in my opinion, the Board of Supervisors are sort of controlled by Mascaro. I have reasons to believe it. So I'm going to make a prediction, and I hope I'm wrong, that they're going to continue doing this. They're just going to bump up the fee to $50, or if they can negotiate a lower price, something less, but it's still going to be more cost for us. You can bank on it. So the last thing I want to talk about is our new manager, Jeff Bartlett. If you'll hear it in this meeting on August 24th, 2020 meeting about a right to know request that's been sitting there for months. And at the last meeting, he claimed it was completed and it's available to the requestor. But in this meeting, he admits he misspoke. The information is not available because it's extensive amount of pages and it takes a long time. Well, they've had months to do this. Okay, it's not like they got it last week or even last month. It's been quite long, and they just ignored the requesters. And this information has to do with the noise ordinance, which affects a lot of people in this particular area where it really started. And for those that you don't know the background, the people causing the noise, the family, the father of the family is a Fox and Rothschild attorney. And so my opinion, my suspicions are that that's why this has dragged on for so long. I know if my kids were riding bikes up and down and annoying the neighbors, and you told me about it, I would try to agree to a reasonable time to do it. And if my kids kept doing it, I would take those bikes away from them. I'd have a little extra cash in my pocket because I'd sell them. But not this guy. He wants to go on annoying about 20, 30 neighbors. So, but back to Mr. Bartlett. He misspoke. Well, you know, you have the responsibility by law to furnish these documents in 5 days, or you can ask for a 30-day extension. They gave the 30-day extension, but they didn't fulfill their obligations. So this is going to be interesting. I recommend to the people that are aggrieved about this, that they file an appeal with the OLR and see what they can do about it. It's unfortunate that this happens, but Mr. Bartlett also misspoke at the last meeting on right to know requests, on the right to know request report, where he claimed there were 42 new right to know requests in the monthly report, when you can go check it yourself, there's only 21. So he's new, maybe he's a little confused, overworked, but he's supposed to have a lot of experience, okay? And we're paying him a lot of money to be accurate. So let's keep an open mind and see what happens, but we will be looking at his performance, and we could decide then if we've got a good manager or if we haven't. So thank you for listening to my opinion. I don't know that everyone would agree with what I've discussed, but I've given you some background on the issues that they addressed in this last meeting, and I hope that's helpful. Remember, you can find all my videos at ExeterUnited.com, along with my blog where I discuss more in depth some of these issues. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you will get an alert each time I post a new video. So once again, thanks for listening to my opinion. Have a good evening.